Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Bill Lester, and welcome to this week's virtual plant clinic. I'm with University of Florida Extension Service here in Hernando County, and joining me today is the regular crew. We have my co-host Colby Pitts, who's the Hernando County Florida Friendly Landscape Coordinator, and Master Gardener Bernie, and we are all here to answer your lawn and garden questions. If you have any questions about your front lawn, your palm trees, your vegetable garden. Let's see, what questions have I gotten? Gardenias, camellias, new subdivisions. We can answer it all. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat, and then we can show them on the screen just like this. Good morning, Bill. How you doing? So good morning, guys. How are you both doing today?
I'm doing well.
Very good.
Nice Thursday. Weather looks pretty outside. Hopefully, it won't get too hot.
Getting a little warm.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
I think summer's here, and for what, about a week or two, we started getting some pretty regular rain. Then all of a sudden, it stopped again. Stopped.
Yeah, about another 3 weeks and it'll start raining every day. And then
Yeah, you'll be
please stop. So
Yeah.
begging for it to stop. I actually have a question.
Sure.
So, uh, I was talking to a resident who gave me a call last week, and they were talking about some of the plants they had, and they said they had queen palms, right? And now I'm not sure. I didn't think queen palms were good, but she said, "Oh, they said that these queen palms are the best thing to plant," and I didn't think that was true. Now, when we're talking palm varieties, what are the best types of palm varieties? What should people be using if they want to plant palms in their yard?
There's good points and bad points to every palm, just like there is to every plant. Queen palms are fine. They're not the most desirable palm to a lot of people. They grow fast. So if you need a fairly fast growing palm, they're one of the faster growers. Technically, they can be killed if the temperature gets too low. So we're kind of at the very edge of where you can grow them. If we get one of those like every 20 or 30 years devastating freezes here, it can kill your queen palms or freeze damage them so they end up with big splits up and down the side and they start to ooze, and then you're going to have to get them removed. So many palms have so many disease problems here now. Sylvester palms and Canary Island date palms can both get lethal bronzing. So that's a big consideration. You don't want to spend $5,000 on a great big palm tree and have it come down with a disease and die in a few months. We have a comment here about queen palm. Alessandra says that queen palms are an easy target for lethal bronzing. They lost 12 of them in 3 years. Queen palms technically can get lethal bronzing. I've never personally seen it here in Hernando County. I know that it has happened over in the villages, and they are on the list of susceptible palms for that disease, although I've never seen one in person. So queen palms can also get lethal bronzing. Pindo palms really don't get any diseases that I can think of off the top of my head. They're very slow growing, and they can be kind of awkward looking. They're not always the most attractive. They can lean and bend and flops, and it's all a matter of personal opinion. Washingtonia palms grow fast. Their petioles, the leaves, have really, really big, sharp thorns, and they become way too tall for you to prune very quickly. And you're going to have to hire a service to get up there, and that starts to cost a lot of money. So, Bernie, what would you say is the best palm to grow? I'm not really finding any bests here. I'm finding all the worst, I guess.
well, I tend to agree with you. Palms are one of those things where they're an alien plant that we're putting in our landscape. So you have to realize they do not grow here on their own. Once you put them here, you're responsible for all their needs. So to complain about the palms having these bad characteristics, those are not really bad characteristics. Those are the characteristics.
Mhm.
Queen palms tend to drop seeds that are very fertile. They're actually an invasive palm in our area at this point. And I have a little grouping of three, got fusarium. Two of them are gone, and the third one's on its way out. And there really wasn't anything I could do about it. It was kind of sad, but so uh, all the palms have unique requirements, and it's just like the grass. Grass doesn't want to be here. Palms don't want to be here. If you're not really willing to do the things that you know, get the education so you know what needs to be done, and then do those things. Probably you shouldn't have palms. To just go out and say I want a perfect lawn with these perfect plants and put them all in place that you spend, by the time you're done, the landscaping is maybe a $15,000 investment in a home easily, and then you spend $100 a month with somebody that knows absolutely nothing about it to take care of it. That it doesn't work that way. You know, I I am just amazed. My next door neighbor has planted a whole row of palm trees. They're beautiful little trees, but they get zapped. They're the wrong plant for there. And every time the temperature drops to, I don't know, probably around 32 degrees, maybe 35 or someplace in there, they really get hit. So they're the wrong plant. And I tried to explain it. I gave her all the literature, but she liked the looks, but she
Yeah.
had no idea of what the problems are. The Canary Island date palms, pruning them to be pineapple palms, terrible thing to do with the palm, and yet it's super popular. So if you
Because it
don't
looks
understand it,
beautiful.
it's gorgeous. But if you don't understand, that's an invitation for the plant to die. Uh, that's not really doing anybody a favor. So and I see these trucks with green fronds where
Yeah.
people have pruned them, and it just really upsets me. I really hate that, and it seems like everybody that's in the business will do that, and so many of the owners think that if I don't like the brown fronds at the bottom, so if I prune up an extra three or four fronds, it'll take a lot longer. Well, no, it doesn't. It's scheduled to remove them. The bottom fronds stays the same, so you just have taken out half the canopy and screwed up the growth of the plant. All those things enter into the equation. So yes, there's probably 25 palms that are available that will grow in our conditions.
Hmm.
None of those palms are native palms, with one exception, and that is the I can't think of the
Cabbage palm.
cabbage palm. There you
But
go.
it can get
Bingo.
bronzing. So,
And it gets bronzing. Uh, I, I live about 9 miles away, and in the 9 miles between here and my house, there have been about 15 cabbage palms that got bronzing and died. So, uh, what would I recommend? Buy what you want, and if you don't want to take care of it, plan on replacing it. Don't spend big money on palms.
yeah, don't go out and buy a $10,000 fully mature palm to put in front of your house. That's a big investment, and there's really no guarantee, even the company or the nursery you get it from, unless they test it literally right before they bring it to your house and install it. There's no guarantee that they can give you that it's not going to have a disease or get a disease. Alessandro points out that Chinese fan palms are resistant to lethal bronzing. I believe that's correct. I don't have the list memorized of all the palm species that are susceptible to bronzing. I know it does include Canary Island day palm, cabbage palm, Bismarck, the great big Bismarck palms are susceptible to it. And queen palms, although I've never seen one get it, and a number of other species on there. So Chinese fan palms aren't grown very often. You don't see them too often, although they do well here. I believe they deal with the cold that we get here in Central Florida just fine. So they're not really cold sensitive. I see Teresa's putting a lot of information on palms up here. So University of Florida has a lot of fact sheets on different palms, where they're going to grow, how to fertilize them, how to care for them, which one to pick. So a lot of information out there on palms. Something that, Bernie, you mentioned that you're kind of disappointed with is sometimes professionals don't necessarily do the best job. Contacted by a lady who emailed me a whole bunch of pictures. They live in city of Brooksville, and they live in a new home. They just built or finished building it, and they moved in back in January or February, I think, just a few months ago. And of course, around their house, they put in some gardenias and some camellias. And gardenias, the leaves are turning yellow and dropping off. Gardenias are dropping their leaves. And what's happening? We've been watering the heck out of it. We've been, deadheading the old flowers. They're looking terrible. We called the landscapers, and they said just fertilize it with some azalea fertilizer. Guys, those plants require a very acidic soil. And if you don't have an acidic soil, they're not going to do well. I don't know the pH of their soil. The homeowner who emailed me, they don't know. And I guarantee you the landscaper never thought to check either. They don't know. So who plants gardenias if you don't know what the soil pH is? I don't know. If you play the lottery, if you want to gamble, if you want to kind of give it your best shot, you can and hope for the best. But if your soil is not naturally acidic, you're going to have to grow gardenias in a container. That works well. Or grow something other than gardenias. I can think of a ton of other flowering bushes and plants they could have put around a house in Brooksville that would do very well, flower and look very, very good, that aren't as fussy about their pH. So had to email them back and told them it looks like classic too high a pH for those gardenias. That's why the leaves turn bright yellow and then drop off. And eventually all the leaves drop off and the plant expires. So
I don't understand why more people don't just get a soil test. It's like $10. It's nothing. And if you think about the money that you're saving,
yeah,
that you would save if you just know and plant the correct thing the first time, I feel like that a $10 investment's a pretty good one.
I think that's amazing because I had 2 calls already this morning, and both of them involve people who probably have pH problems. One is a fellow that is wanting to put in Bahia lawn and has no idea what the pH is. And obviously, if it's really high, Bahia lawns aren't going to do well. And the other one wants to put in native plants. And it makes it a real awkward situation in that although almost every plant there is, you can get the preferred pH offline real easy. It's very difficult on native plants. There isn't any real good research information showing what soil types these native plants really need. So how do you recommend the people actually have a 7.6 pH? What native plants are going to do well? And the answer is, how do you find out? I can't recommend any of them because I don't know that any of them are going to do well with that high a pH.
It's difficult if your yard is kind of in the average. You could just look at native plants that are going to grow naturally in your area. So, for example, here in Hernando County, we have Spring Hill. Spring Hill traditionally is pine sandhill. That's what it was until 50 years ago, hundreds and thousands of years ago, the scattered pine trees, a lot of sand, things like that. Any kind of native plants that like that environment are going to do well there. Native plants that grow in swamps don't do well in Spring Hill because Spring Hill tends to be very, very high and dry. If your house is newer and they brought in fill dirt, who knows? Who knows where that fill dirt came from? If you live right on the coast and where your house is 1,000 years ago was in the Gulf of Mexico, but we brought dredge in and built it up and put your house on top of it, and your pH is sky high, who knows what native plants are going to do well there, because it's a unnatural, non-native soil. So if you have generally a native soil, you can find native plants that are going to do well in that soil. If it's non-native, it's a lot more difficult.
I'd actually like to show everybody a good way to find the plants that may work in your area,
Okay.
especially when you're kind of looking at other soil conditions. So let me go ahead and share my screen. So if we look here, this is the FFL app. It's available on iOS and Android, but we're going to use the browser version. And what this does is if you go down here to the middle where it says filter, you can pick all types of stuff. So let's say we want, like we were talking about just now, a native plant with let's say this let's say where's our slightly alkaline to alkaline? We want some high. There's actually none that like it that high, but hold on a second. That's like you were saying. But I did see, I just looked at it. So if we look at something here that can tolerate that range of soils, that's a native. And there you go. There are some options. And really you can go through the whole any combination of those categories, whether you want native, you need salt tolerance, what have you, drought tolerance, soil moisture, the color of the flowers even, along with your hardiness zones and all your yard conditions. Kind of type it in or, select them. And you can get some, I don't know, I think some pretty good information. I think it's a great resource.
Contractors are really good at burying leftover cement and wood particles and any of the trash right there in the middle of your front yard. So you end up with some spots that have real high organic material and a lot of maybe termites. And then 3 feet away, you have a spot that has an extremely high pH because of all the cement that they poured in that area. Mm-hmm. It makes it really difficult, but for the most part, your soil pH over a long period of time is not going to change. So everybody should get a soil test at least once. Take 4 or 5 spots in the yard, mix it up, and then take an average sample. And that average probably is still going to be good years from now. But if you don't have any idea what the pH is to begin with, you're going to buy a lot of the wrong plants, and it's cheap right now. $10. The university will not only tell you accurately what the pH is, but they'll give you a recommendation of what you need to do for just about any kind of plant that you want to put in that soil. So, before you go out and start buying a lot of things, it's the best $10 you can spend.
Yes. You're more than welcome to either call or stop by our office. We have the forms and the little paper bags for you to put your sample in. You would have to mail it up to Gainesville, up to the University of Florida Soil Testing Lab, along with a $10 check. And in about a week or two, I know they get a little bit backed up in the spring. So in about 2 weeks or so, they send your results back to you. And your pH may be just absolutely fine. A lot of people's is, and that's great. But if your pH is not fine, you can avoid a lot of very expensive problems like installing a new Bahia lawn, having it die, and then finding out later that a $10 soil test would have told you that Bahia would not do well in your yard. Or gardenias, camellias, they can plants are very expensive nowadays too. They're not cheap. So soil test in advance can help save a lot of money and aggravation.
We tend to be centered around 6.5 in our county, but uh, occasionally we get these people that are over 7, and we get a few that are down in the 5s. Well, the ones that are down in the 5s are fairly lucky. They can grow a lot of things that the rest of us can't. But these people that are up in the 7s that are trying to do Bahia lawns, it's just not going to work right. And they need to know that. Why in the world would you invest a lot of hours if you're doing it yourself, or buy a lot of sod and put it down when there's probably a 20% chance in this county that the pH is off and that sod is never going to do well. So, you know, if it costs you $3,000 to replace the lawn, it's going to cost you 6,000 the second time you replace it, because you're going to have to put something else in it, and you're going to have a lot more labor in it, and the something else costs more money. So, good $10 investment.
Yep. Now, Sarah says that last year her gardenia had no flowers. This year it grew taller than my house and has thousands. That's great. You must have naturally acidic soil. And gardenias like speckled shade, so they tend to do very well underneath an oak tree where they're getting just a little bit of sun, but not full sun. So obviously your gardenia is in the magical, perfect spot, and it's working out well for you. I've had people send me pictures before because azaleas like the same type of environment as gardenias do. And they send me a picture of an azalea hedge they put out like right out in the middle of their front yard, full sun, no idea what the pH is. And why are all my azaleas dying? You pick the probably absolute worst spot for that azalea hedge. So they can do well in the right spot. They don't do well in a bad spot. Bernie, any suggestions on controlling smilax vines? Ouch, they hurt.
Depends on where they are. If they're not in your yard, if they're in pasture or uh, rough areas, I think milestone. Uh, if you're going to use it in your yard, it's not approved for that. You cannot do that. But Smilex, triclopyr attacks it. A little triclopyr and Roundup mixed together attack it a little better. Uh, it's a nasty vine. And it's got all those little thorns that hate you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, keep it cut back while you're trying to decide what you're going to do is the best advice I can give you.
Yeah,
There are
keeping it cut back and then watching when it respouts, keep cutting it back. The problem is some of the tubers that it grows from are like the size of a football or larger. So you may be cutting it back for a very, very long time before the plant decides to throw in the towel and give up. I looked them up once before, and there's about a dozen different specific species of smilax. Half are native and half are invasive. So smilax, there's more than just one species or variety of smilax. There's a number of them. It's kind of based on the exact shape of the leaf.
I know that the Smilax has like those glossy leaves. It makes it kind of hard for a lot of those foliar herbicides to penetrate very well. So doing it when it's hotter outside, even if you're just using glyphosate, Roundup, or whatever, doing it when it's hot or cutting it down and then spraying it when the new growth comes up will both be effective ways to get rid of it. More
Yes,
effective than just spraying it
spraying
when it's
that new
normal.
little shoot is going to work really well. Trying to spray a 20-foot long vine
No.
is not going to work well.
I've also
I
seen
use
people.
triclopyr and Roundup mix, and it took me about 3 years before I had what I considered really good control. But I would keep them cut back, and I'd spray them every time they'd start popping up. I'd spray them if they were 8 to 12 inches tall. They got dosed, and took a while, but they did go away.
And Shane, if you like those vines, by all means, go ahead and keep them going. Like I said, a lot of the different species are natives. So trying to decide, is it a nice landscape plant or not? If you have a natural area, it might work. It might be a part of the natural environment. So I have to keep reminding people sometimes you can't go out there and sanitize the great outdoors. You can't get rid of every bird and animal and insect and plant and everything else that you don't like. You can't just, carpet bomb and nuke your yard. So having some of those things in a natural area could work. And Sarah, yeah, you're right. You have to keep after those tubers because you dig up a few and then you have to just keep checking and be diligent. The other ones that you missed are going to keep sending up shoots. Technically, if you are diligent for long enough, you can win and get rid of them. The part of the plant is edible. I believe the newest growing tip, but don't hold me to that. And please don't rush out there and start trimming your vines to make a salad for lunch. Many of those plants are not dangerous. They are safe to eat. Whether or not anybody would really want to eat them or they're going to be tasty, I'm not so sure about that. Sally asked a question about her avocado tree. What causes avocado leaves to brown from the outside, then fall? All depends on exactly what's happening with those leaves. Avocados can get a fungal disease. Bernie, what's the name of that?
Like circus borum type fungal disease?
No, the bay tree disease. Killed all the bay trees, but avocados get it all.
Oh, from the little bugs.
Yes, it's spread by a beetle. And if you have an avocado tree, and all of us, it seems like overnight, all the leaves turn brown, and they're all hanging there, and the brown leaves don't fall off very quickly. Eventually, they will. They don't hang on there like for years, but for days or possibly even weeks, all those brown leaves are hanging on there. It has a fungal disease, and the tree is dead from that. So that's the kind of thing that if your tree gets it, there's no spray, there's no treatment you can use to fix it. So a lot of avocado trees suffer from that. We lost a lot of them here in Hernando County a number of years ago. Little teeny tiny trees don't get it, but after they get a certain height, the beetle will find them and transmit the fungal disease into them and kills the avocado. Avocados can have other problems. They may just be having a problem with drought. It might be way too sunny and hot and not enough rain for them. So it's kind of pushing the moisture too hard. And there's a couple of other fungal leaf spot diseases that avocados can get that are going to cause spots on the leaves and some of the leaves to turn brown and fall off. But the one thing to look for is if all those leaves turn brown and they don't fall off, that is a very, very bad sign for an avocado.
Yeah, when that first happened, they went through and nailed all the red bay trees, and I didn't even know we had red bay trees, except you would see these trees with all the leaves all browned out, and they're all still hanging on the tree. The
Uh,
another thing that happens to avocado here is that they tend to get some damage if there's a frost and they shuck a few leaves. So if it kicked off the leaves in March and April, and now it's not really doing that anymore, that's a lot of that can be traced back to a frost that we had someplace.
don't mind me. I'm just looking through the questions here. So,
I was looking at this Lily Browning volcano mulching. Well, that must be mulch the entire tree.
I feel like if there's a tornado coming that's going to knock a tree over, your mulch is not going to prevent it from falling over.
no, mulch will help to prevent weeds and hold in moisture. It can't keep the tree in the ground when a tornado passes over. So I don't know how those people up there in Pennsylvania do these things, but here we go. We got a question about bananas here. Gloria asks, Gloria has a banana tree. How does she take care of it? And it has 2 new starts. Do I separate them and replant? Do I cut off the dead winter leaves or just let them die down? You can dig up those new little starts, and they're called pups, and transplant them to hopefully have them turn into individual new bananas. And any dead, completely dead winter leaves that died either during the winter or because of the cold, if they're totally dead, you can go ahead and prune them off. They're not doing any good. They're not going to get better, so you can remove them. So, Bernie, any suggestions on growing bananas?
The only thing there is remember it's a 2-year plant. You don't get bananas in the first year. So if you want bananas, you have to protect the plant from frost and definitely from freezes through a winter in order to have a crop the next year. Otherwise, they seem to get beat up and start all over. So if they get nailed this year, they'll start over and it's a 2-year cycle. And I've seen them here where it took maybe 6 years before you actually produced a crop of bananas. So,
Yeah, because they keep getting knocked back every winter. Now, this winter, I mean, maybe some people here had their bananas damaged. Mine weren't at all. They lost maybe a leaf or two, not even from the cold, just from natural growing taller and losing the oldest leaves. And I'm thinking that this coming summer into fall, I probably have my best chance ever of actually getting a bunch of bananas. So,
I had somebody in the neighborhood actually build a tent, put in 4x4 posts, covered it with plastic, and put a heater in
that
to
works.
protect them during the winter.
That
You
works
know,
just fine.
you talk about desperate for a banana. You could go to the store and buy a lot of bananas for the cost of those posts.
But they're not as good as the ones that you grew in your yard. So
Uh,
there's just no comparison really. And that avocado disease that we could not remember the name of
Laurel
is
wilt.
laurel wilt. So that hasn't really come up that much here in Hernando County because we don't grow avocados commercially, and we have very few avocados this far north. Farther south, down in South Florida, the Miami area, laurel wilt's still a huge issue and concern and problem. And Shane, if you have plants that you need identified, if you take a bunch of pictures and yes, email them to me, we'll send them off and we'll get them identified. If I don't know what they are from looking at the pictures, we have a University of Florida service that we make use of that will, find out what they are. Just take a lot of pictures. No such thing as too many pictures. And we'll get those identified for you. And we'll show everybody's contact information again at the end here. So goodness, lots of good questions here. Sarah asks, and if this is about the vines once again, I know that I looked online once before and I found a publication, and that it has an identification key as a part of it. And there's a number of different species and varieties of smilax here. And a lot of the way that you can tell the difference between them is the actual shape of the leaf. So I know that that's online. I know it's if you look up University of Florida smilax, you're going to find all the information that they have on it about whether it's edible, which ones are edible, which ones are the most edible. I'm not going to recommend that you go out there and try eating it.
I just put the one with the key in the comments.
Okay, great, thank you.
The key. Okay.
Yeah, I have them in my holly hedge in front of my house, and I probably have all of them. So, and I can't spray anything on it because whatever I spray on them will kill the holly hedge. So I have to crawl around on my hands and knees and clip them down at ground level on a regular basis. I'm always behind on it to keep them as under control as I can, which isn't very under control, honestly. So, hey, guys, if anybody has any other questions, go ahead and just put them in the chat or in the comments.
We had a little gal that really knows about eating these things in the wild, named Kristen Wood. And Kristen is up at the park in Webster or someplace up in that area. And Colby, being from that area, what's the name of the little park up there?
Little park.
Yeah. It's not actually Webster. It's just off of 301.
Oh, it's Colt Creek. There's
What?
Colt Creek State Park. That's
no.
That's off of 471. Off of 301, you have is it in Dade Battlefield?
Dade Battlefield. That's it. Dade Battlefield Park. Kristen Wood. If you want to know about eating some plant, that is the gal. Oh, Lily put that up. Kristen is at Dade Battlefield. Anyway, she used to have a program called Incredible Edibles, and I think they still do that over there at her park now. And you go and I don't know, it's like $2, and you get to taste all these various things that grow, and it's amazing that the pine tea is pretty good. I like that, and the parsley little shoots are pretty decent. They make a good thing to throw in a salad. So and she fixed Smilex and all those things. So if you go to the Dade Battlefield website and find out if they have this Incredible Edibles type program, and you're one of those people that likes to eat fruits and nuts and twigs and things, it's an enjoyable experience.
It may not taste that great, and personally, I prefer all-you-can-eat sushi, but it's very popular topic. Everybody wants to know what they can eat in the woods, even if they're normally not going to go out and eat them. So one thing you don't want to be eating from out in the woods is mushrooms. Don't do that in Florida. Bad idea. And
you shouldn't eat anything unless you know exactly what it is, ever.
Yeah. A lot of these things could be natural medicine. A lot of them, a lot of different plants contain kind of unique compounds. That's why it's very important to eat a wide variety of different fruits and vegetables. They all contain something a little bit different. So you're going to get a wide variety of those things. And see, I got a little bit of support here with the all-you-can-eat sushi. And Bruce says that he had a problem with his Coontie, and a little bit of dieback, especially after winter, is not unusual. They will flush back out with new growth, and Coonties are tough as nails. They require very, very little to no care and fussing and watering and fertilizing and miracle grow. Throw them out in the corner of the yard, pure sand, never water them, and they'll usually do pretty great. And Bruce says that I got it, boom, right on the nose.
That's why
That's something
Kunti have been
right.
around. I mean, that's why they've been around for millions and millions of years, pretty much unchanged, because they just go. They're fine.
Yep. And they love high, dry, bone dry sandhill areas. Just the natural rain is going to be just fine for them to get by on. And they're slow growers, but over time, over the years, a little one will turn into a clump that gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And, no maintenance is a definite bonus for me because I don't have time to be out there fussing with stuff.
Yeah,
And regular listener Sid Taylor, who's retired from, I think she worked for forestry, either forestry or FWC with the park system, is also an expert on all that stuff out in the forest that you can eat.
well, obviously the Indians knew what you could eat and what you couldn't because they survived.
Yeah.
Actually, they flourished uh, with nothing but the things that nature was providing.
Making flour out of acorns. I've heard if you don't do it correctly, it tastes horrible.
Yeah, still got a lot of tannin.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the thing with Kuntis is they used to take the roots,
Yeah.
and they're very starchy and would make flour and things out of it. But if you don't do it correctly, it'll make you really sick. And they just figured out how to do it over generations of trying to survive off the land. It's super interesting.
Poke salad.
And what is it? Skunk cabbage? The tips of cabbage palms?
Mm-hmm.
Colby, have you ever tried that before?
No,
I
I'm
haven't
aware.
either.
I have tried the heart
Skunk
of the
cabbage,
palm.
not exactly super appetizing sounding, at the very least.
Yeah, I like hearts of palm very much also.
But wipes out an awful big tree to get one little heart.
Yeah. I don't know how we always end up veering off into eating and recipe sharing. So
We're doing it right before lunch.
Lily says it's swamp cabbage, so obviously she's had it before. And yeah, pokeweed, you can eat the brand new leaves, the new growing shoots, but you don't want to eat. You have to prepare it correctly.
Yeah, they cook it a couple of times. Yeah. Get rid of the poison that's in it.
And I'm sure that Lily has had swamp cabbage before, and I'm sure that she's had scrapple up in Pennsylvania also, even though she keeps trying to say she hasn't.
Everybody in Pennsylvania eats scrapple. I think that's
Yeah.
the state breakfast.
Yep, she's still trying to deny it, but
I had to look that up. I didn't know what it was.
My dad used to fix that. So I guess it'd be fair to say I probably haven't had scrapple in about 60 years. Which, no,
yeah, I
I
had it a few
don't
times
visit
when I
that
was a
much.
kid. My father was from Philadelphia.
Because I've heard of like head cheese before, but not scrapple.
I've never tried head cheese. Have you ever seen it at a deli?
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah.
Look for it sometime and just look at it. Don't get too close. Just look at it.
If you're interested in trying it, I'm not sure you will be after that.
There are some things that are really good, and then there are some things that aren't that great. I thought it was really neat the old guy that on TV that goes all over the world and eats all these various things, and uh, he's having a meal with a tribe. I don't know, in Africa or Asia someplace, and they take these great big bugs and they cook them, and the people are dirty, and the utensils are all dirty, and when they get all done, they with a big smile they hand it to him, and he ate it. And then afterwards he said, that was probably the worst thing I've ever had in my life. And he said, I've eaten some really terrible things. So, you know, if you can smile and do that, and I don't think I could, but I see these people that kind of like fried grasshoppers and whatever, and that's nice. You know, it's real easy. You can buy fried mealworms. Uh, that's kind of a delicacy, and we used to pass those out at the master gardener meeting. Here, everybody have one, and about half the people refuse to eat them for some reason.
Well, you never know if you're going to like it until you try it. So,
I had those
so
little
Lily, go out and get some
cricket
scrapple
things.
at the grocery store this weekend and give it a try. And Sarah, if you're looking for information with controlled burning, I don't know if you're in Hernando County or not, but whatever county you're in, if you go online to the Florida Forest Service, every county has a county forester, and they can give you all the information, all the infographics, all the lists of plants that you could plant around your house to keep it safe from fires and what things you shouldn't plant. And they have everything that you'd want to know.
Well,
So,
I think that, and they'll also go out and, you pay for it, but they'll go out and burn private property too, which is like, I know I mentioned it, I think last week or the week before. That still just blows my
yeah,
mind. That is such a useful and helpful service.
Seemed like it was about $150, which is a
Yeah,
bargain if you're going to burn a 20-acre field or something like
yeah, because
that.
it takes a lot of expertise and a lot of preparation and a lot of planning. From being a part of a few of those, that's 150, $200 is a bargain.
You got to have the right temperature, no wind, right humidity, all those things. They take that all into account and provide the fire control backup if you need it. So, yeah, there's some really good help available on that. Yeah, just call the county.
yeah, I'm
Oh,
copying
for
it. Here, I got it. Let's see if this. There we go, Sarah. Here's our Hernando County Forester, Jessica Clark, and there's her contact information. And like I said, if you want to pay them to do burning, they can. They can tell you about what they charge. They do charge for it, and how small or big of an area that they can handle. And she'll tell you everything that you need to know. And they do give classes on. You can become a certified pile burner. I can't remember the name of the license, but there is a class and training about how to. Because think about when they're clearing land for like a subdivision, they have a big pile of brush that needs to be burned. You need to do that safely and know what you're doing. And I see that now we have a ton of different information in the chat about who to contact and University of Florida publications. So, yeah, proper burning and proper woods management is very important, especially when it gets really dry. Okay, guys, looks like we're kind of getting close to that time. So if anybody has any other questions, if you're watching the recording of this presentation, and I noticed, I just pulled up numbers the other day, we have an overall average of about 200 views per episode. So, you know, some get more, some get less, but about an average of 200-ish. So that's great. Thank you so much for everybody who watches this recorded. But if you want to email me any questions, there is my email. The phone number for our office is right here. If you call here on a Thursday, Teresa will answer and put you through to Bernie. And you can ask Bernie your question. Save all the really hard ones for him, not me. And, of course, be sure to follow us on Facebook. Our short name is Hernando EXT. And if you go to YouTube and you look in the little search box and look up Hernando County Government, they have a YouTube channel, have a whole bunch of my recorded classes and a whole bunch of Lily's recorded classes on Florida-friendly landscaping, covering, I can't think of too many topics that she didn't cover. Gardening in the shade, the full sun, the winter, the summer, all kinds of different gardening information. So whatever questions you have, that's a great resource.
I saw a. Oh, you can email me about water questions. Everything else, send it to them.
The thing is, if you email any one of us, if we don't know the answer or if you kind of email the wrong person, we just circle it around. So your question might make the rounds for a little bit, but we'll get an answer back to you.
Colby is also great if you want to know about clearing land. What kind of products do you use to get rid of nasty things that you've got on your property? You're wanting to clear it out a little bit. He did that for a living. So some of the products he used, you're not going to be able to get, but for the most part, he can put you onto some chemicals that will be very, very safe for you to use and effective on the vegetation you're trying to eliminate. So don't forget that here's a guy with a lot of actual experience at a pretty young age, and it's kind of a neat guy. If you want some information, be sure you give him a call on that.
I appreciate that, Bernie. I did see a question up there that I wanted to touch on real quick right before we wrap up about the native, non-native milkweed and the OE, which is an incredibly long, difficult to say name that describes a disease that's affecting monarch butterflies. It uses milkweed as a host plant. So typically the recommendation is avoid planting tropical milkweed, and then cutting back that tropical milkweed before winter. Because the thing is they want, when we let that grow throughout the winter, the butterflies are staying there longer than they normally would, which means and those that stay, instead of migrating back up to the north, end up like 5 times more likely to catch this disease. And when the butterflies, emerge from the chrysalis, they have like malformed wings and they 0% chance survival. So it's really important to plant native milkweeds, and if you have tropical milkweeds, to cut them back before winter, cut them all the way back and let them grow back after winter. That's I just wanted to touch on that because it is really important.
Yeah, it's a good idea to transition from the non-native tropical milkweed to other native varieties of milkweed. And University of Florida is coming out with more information on that. I know it's been a big point on social media and in other areas, but, remain calm, don't panic. I know that a lot of people like to raise monarch butterflies indoors. That is problematic because naturally there are certain diseases that impact every insect. to keep their population under control. OE is an amoeba, believe it or not, that can infect certain butterflies and caterpillars. Wasps are predators of caterpillars. I know I see wasps in my garden hunting around for caterpillars. People who raise caterpillars indoors, you have to keep it very clean and very sanitary. That's very difficult to do with caterpillars. Kind of hard to get them to use a cat box. So our best advice is to plant more native plants, plant a variety of plants that are well adapted to your area, your yard, your soil, and grow a variety of those plants outdoors for all the different butterflies, moths, wildlife, caterpillars. So don't forget to plant host plants that you're kind of crossing your fingers. You will get caterpillars and they're going to eat the heck out of them, because you can't have butterflies if you don't start with caterpillars. And and of course, Corey's here trying to still work in a question about manure or our weekly poo question. So, that is a problem. If you're Lily mentioned about raising caterpillars indoors, because if you have a bunch of caterpillars going indoors in a container, you end up with caterpillar poo all over the place. And if you get a disease, there are viral diseases, there's parasites, there's other problems that caterpillars can have that's going to prematurely end their little lives. So raising them inside doesn't always work that well a lot of times, because you end up with just knee deep in caterpillar poo, it seems like. So Corey and Lily, that was for you. We worked in the poo question this week.
Don't forget to compost it.
I wonder how caterpillar poo composts. Well, obviously compost is part of the natural environment. I wouldn't think that you would have enough of it to make caterpillar poo compost.
Maybe like the tiny little itty bitty microscopic microgreens. Maybe you have enough for that.
If we could produce it on a mass scale and think up a really good marketing campaign, it's different and outrageous enough to do really well. Guys, we're going to discuss this. We may all be going into business together.
Just know if the plant clinic doesn't come on next Thursday, it was a really good idea.
It's because we struck it rich in the frass industry, I guess.
Hey guys, looks like it's about that. Business.
Pardon me?
Number one and number two business.
So, hey, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in this week. I believe that we will all be back again next Thursday morning at 10 a.m. So if you have any lawn and garden questions, go ahead and save them up. Come on in, join us. We'll see if we can't kind of squeeze in the poo comment within our 1 hour or so. It's becoming tradition. And thank you so much, Lily, for joining us from way up in the Great White North. And Alessandra and everybody else who asked questions, thank you so much. Hopefully we'll see you again next week. So until then, everybody take care, and we'll see you next week. Bye, guys.